romance readers, I am Liz Donatelli. Welcome to Reader Seeks Romance, the #1 romance novel talk show on YouTube. Award-winning author Tracey Livesay joins me to discuss her super sexy romance between an American rapper and a British prince, American royalty. And Tracey answers questions about her reading and writing life in QUICKIES Q&A. Enjoy, and be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Welcome to Reader Seeks Romance, Tracey.
Hi, Liz. Thank you for having me.
You are a former criminal defense attorney. I have to ask, why do so many lawyers become romance authors?
You know, I wish I knew. I don't know. I mean, I think we love reading. I think we are good writers. I think we needed the escape from what we did during our day jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was a easy transition, almost like I can create the world that I want because the real world is a little
Yeah. Okay, well, that makes sense to me. Congratulations on the release of American Royalty.
Thank you so much. Thank you. American Royalty is a romance between an American rapper, Danny, who is having a little bit of a PR problem. And she is in search of some really good press. She needs it to save this business deal that's really important to her. And so when she gets an invitation to perform at a tribute concert for the Queen's late husband, she jumps at the opportunity. And when she crosses the pond, she meets Prince Jameson. And through, romance things, they end up secluded and sequestered in his ancestral home. And they get to know one another and sparks fly. And I
was like, oh, this is going to be kind of like a forced proximity situation. I was like, oh, I just so love that. And I haven't read one in a while either. I was like, oh, I love that. I love it.
Yeah.
So I understand that American Royalty is inspired by Prince Harry and Duchess Meghan Markle. What prompted you to use their love story as a model for Danny and Jameson?
It's loosely based, let me say that, and for the obvious reasons, in that she is sort of a Black American entertainer and he is a white member of the British royal family. So in that way, it's inspired. But really, what inspired the idea for American Royalty was a couple of things. So one was the idea, the growth of the entertainment media in the US. So I'm old enough that when I was growing up, there was Entertainment Tonight and there was People magazine, and that was pretty much it. And the coverage was controlled by the stars and their people. So you know, if Brad Pitt was on the cover of People, it was because he had a movie coming out, right? And if I don't date myself, but if there was a star who was on Entertainment Weekly, it was not Entertainment Week, on Entertainment Tonight, it was because they had a new album out or they were promoting a movie, and it was very glossy and it was very controlled. And in the intervening sort of 20 something years, there are so many outlets, there are so many magazines. It is a $1 billion industry. And it occurred to me that we follow celebrities here the way they follow the royal family over there, like this insatiable need to know what they're doing, who they're dating, like all of that stuff. So celebrities have become our royalty. So that was sort of one thing that I had been thinking about. And it was sort of crystallized actually during Harry and Meghan's wedding, because you're watching the procession of people coming in and all you see are celebrities, in addition to, the royals that are coming, right. But you're seeing these celebrities and you're seeing athletes who are dating tech people and rock stars dating actresses. And it's such a little incestuous world. They all know each other. They all date within each other, within, 5 degrees of separation. Right. And I was just really fascinated by that. And so the idea of writing a series that was about that world, about, you know, celebrities dating within this small sort of community, and their lives and romances being captured by media. I thought that would be a really sort of fun thing to explore. And then what happened is in 2019, Cardi B did this Harper Bazaar cover photo shoot where she pretended to be different fairy tales. And in one of them, she's in this ball gown and she's running away from a castle. And so someone randomly like tweeted that picture and said, I'm waiting for my, you know, Prince rapper romance. And then my editor, and she does not remember this, but she tagged me and said, I'm waiting for this story. And so I laughed because I was like, I was in the middle of writing another entirely different series. And this is not something I normally write. So I just was like, oh, that's funny. Ha ha ha.
Yeah.
But when the time came to sort of pitch a new idea, a new series, I pitched that American Royalty series. And as ideas of different books I could write, I sort of said, you know, maybe there's an actor and an athlete. And I just, from the back of my mind, that rapper royalty idea came. And I said, or it could be an actual prince and a rapper. And I sent that in, and my agent, like within 24 hours, got back to my editor, got back to my agent and said, I want that story. And I was like, okay, I think I can write it, you know, in a couple years. And she's like, no, like whatever you're doing, stop. We want that right now. And we want that particular story.
First thing that attracted me was that gorgeous book cover. It's palpable, like this palpable emotions. It is alive. It is like a living book cover.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
The cover artist, Eric Davila, did, I mean, an amazing job. I have it on my wall, and I've never done that, but that cover is just, it's one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. And not because it's mine, but just it's the art. It's gorgeous.
It is gorgeous. Is there an award for like within the industry for book covers? I feel like there should be an award.
There is.
There is.
There's like a reader's choice sort of award for book covers. At least there used to be. You know, post COVID, I'm not sure what's going on, but there used to be. I need to look into that. That's true, because I think he deserves. I mean, every chance I get, I'm always tagging him because it's beautiful.
What about Danny and Jameson to you is hashtag relationship goals?
I think it's in getting to know one another and genuinely being interested in each other, right? And so I don't want to spoil things for anyone, but the point in the story when they slept together for the first time and they're having the discussion about about hair. You know, she's like, I wear this cap at night to protect my hair. And he's so confused by that. And he's like protect it from what? And she thinks that's really funny. And she's like, you know, if you've never dated a Black woman before, there's a lot that we deal with, that we go through with our hair. I'm not sure I want to have that discussion with you for something that's just, you know, it's just fleeting. We're just having a little fling. But he says, if it's something you do and it's important to you, it's important to me. And so we're going to talk about it, and I want to know about it.
Yeah.
And similarly, she has her own ideas about what growing up might have been like for him, or the fact that he was a prince. His life must have been easy compared to hers.
Mm-hmm.
And yet when they have discussions and he shares with her, no, this is actually what it was like, the interest to want to know more, to get to know him. I think that's relationship goals, because there's going to be a lot of issues that they're going to have to deal with. And I think that people in general have to deal with. When we have a better understanding of other people, and we understand where they're making their decisions from, it gives us empathy and it helps us grow as we move forward. That's the thing I really try to do in my stories, is have them understand each other. So that you believe when you finish the book that they really will be together forever.
Right. In American Royalty, Danny receives an education on royal protocol and etiquette and the whole titles thing. I learned from American Royalty the difference between a royal's staff and household. That was something I didn't know. So I was wondering, what did you learn while writing the book? Because I imagine there was a certain amount of research that you put into it.
Yes, I learned all of that. As romance readers, I've read my fair share of historical romances. So I thought that I was prepared. I thought I knew what I needed to know. And there was so much more. So the household staff thing was interesting. The titles, sort of the idea that when Jameson says to her, I can't call you Duchess if you're not one. So the idea that they can't, that they can only, they can only call someone like a lady or whatever, if that's their actual title.
Yeah.
There was stuff about processions. There's a scene where they have the first event of the tribute events, and it's like a formal dinner, and everyone's introduced, the royal family members. Mm-hmm. And the way I have it is backwards. The queen is supposed to be introduced first, but it didn't work for me dramatically. So I said, well, in my world, this is how we're going to do it. But there are so many little rules and protocols. Mm-hmm. And while I don't think it's healthy for the royal family to stay so insular, you can see why they do, because it's very difficult for someone to come from the outside into that and not only learn all of the little stuff, but treat it sort of like with the deference that they do, because it seems a little, so I curtsy, so I don't, big deal. So I close the door versus the bodyguard, big deal. But these are, it's a big deal. And the thing that I also found that was really interesting is that the royal family is surrounded by so many people that work for them, but they don't necessarily protect them. They protect the idea of the institution and the monarchy. And so when we see all of these things in the media and the press, and it's not always this person against this person as much as it is, we have to protect the institution of the king versus, who's going to be king versus who's not. Right. And so that's what we're sort of fighting over. It's really interesting.
That was another thing that I love about American Royalty is also kind of going through that with Danny and learning. There's like, oh wow, I never thought of that. That was another thing about, oh, I can't call you Duchess because you're not a Duchess. And I'm like, well, what happens? Like, I mean, obviously, like he does call her Duchess, and like the royalty cops don't get him. So I'm just wondering, in reality, if you were to do that, like, and it got out, what would be the repercussions,
The repercussions, but I definitely think like there would probably be some news, headlines, some media headlines, Prince breaks protocol and calls, Danielle Duchess or something like that. Like there are people whose job it is, I think, to shame and keep people in line. I think that's probably what would happen.
I think it would be cool that if a royal member of the family called a non-duchess a duchess, they automatically are a duchess now. And they have to live the life of a duchess. Now, that could be an interesting story. It's like, oh, he called me a duchess, so now I'm a duchess, and I have to live that life.
Yes. But you may not like the other part of that.
Well, true. True, but I'd be willing to give it a try.
Jameson, I'd be like, please, doing the whole holding up a sign. That's just, I have to trick them.
Who would you cast as Danny and Jameson in the movie adaptation of American Royalty, which I hope is somewhere in your future eventually, if not already?
No, not yet, but I wish. That would be amazing. What's really interesting is up until a week ago, I did not have an answer to that question.
Oh, okay.
And it's interesting because I usually cast my books before I write. Like that's part of my process. And I couldn't for this one. I couldn't see them. Because because usually I cast with like actors, you know, we find the people like, oh, that this is perfect. And I've, you know, take the pictures and I print them out and I put them up. And I could not like think of an actress who could embody Danny. It wouldn't come. Once I saw the cover, that person became Danny, as real to me as if she were a real person. But I did a book club discussion and someone said Theo James for Jameson. And I love Theo James. And I was like, okay, I can work with that. And there's actually an entertainer named Normani. And I thought, okay, I can see her. And since then, I have also thought about, because I don't know if Normani can act. I know she can entertain and probably and do the whole Duchess part. I'm not sure if she could do Danny, but there's a sister group, Haley and Chloe. They are actors, but they're also entertainers. And I think maybe one of them could probably do it too.
I can't wait to now like put all those pictures together and see what I think. It's interesting that you said that you were envisioning the characters on the cover as you, like, that's how I'm envisioning them. That's how soulful they are on the cover. That I'm like, these are real people, right? And I've been envisioning them.
Yes, I could not picture anyone. She's Danny. She's Danny.
Yeah. So on your website, you've added a QR code to access the American Royalty playlist on Spotify. Did listening to music help you to inhabit Danny's headspace? And can you tell me about the experience of writing rap songs as Duchess?
I typically don't listen to music when I write. I love music so much, and I'm the person that thinks they can sing better than they actually can. And so it's hard for me to listen to songs that I know and not sing, right? So that's why I can't like listen to it while I write. But when I knew that I was writing the story and I knew sort of who Duchess was going to be and the type of rapper she was going to be modeled after, I definitely listened to a lot of Cardi B and Megan Stallion, Doja Cat and Saweetie and Lizzo and a lot of sort of current artists to get in that frame of mind. Not when I was drafting, but just when I was doing anything else, like anything else. I actually made a playlist that was of those types of songs to listen to just to sort of inhabit that. The playlist came about because, like I said, I love music and I knew that I wanted to do these little headers at the beginning of each chapter. And I wanted to do them in the POV of whoever's chapter it was. So I knew for Danny's chapter, I wanted to do rap lyrics and I wanted them to give you an idea of what that chapter was going to be about. I also wanted to do it chronologically so you can sort of get an evolution of sort of where women in hip hop started to where they are now. And I put a lot of work into picking out those songs and picking out those lyrics. And I was very proud of myself. And then my editor said, you can't just put lyrics in your book. We have to pay for that.
That's right.
Or you have to get permission. And I was like, oh, right. And because I couldn't let that go, like it was still so important. This is where like a lot of that lawyer research stuff came in. Like I went and researched sort of what I had to do to get permission. You know, there are a lot of writers credited for certain songs. And so for each song, you have to find all of the writers. You have to contact each of them. When you're lucky, they're all represented by the same company. So that makes most of it easy, but sometimes, you know, it was a little difficult, but I did that work. And then I sat back and I kept saying to myself, even if like HarperCollins doesn't pay for this, it's so important to me that I might even do it myself. Until I got my first response and the number they quoted me, I almost passed out. I was like, for like 2 phrases, you want to charge me that much money, like thousands of dollars.
Wow.
And Yes, that is how much they were
Wow.
charging. And I couldn't do that. I knew HarperCollins wasn't going to do that. And I was so
Yeah.
upset for, a good day or two. I'm just like wallowing. And a good author friend said, why don't you write the lyrics in Danny's voice? And it was immediately like, yes, that's a great idea. And then I was like, how can I do that? Like, I was so scared. I was so afraid. But because I didn't want to let that go, I wanted those headers. I just sort of had to put my head down and write. And they are like one of my favorite parts of the book.
Yeah, it's very effective. It's very effective because it makes it so real. It makes it so real that like you feel like, this isn't just you saying that she's a rap star. Like we see evidence. There's lyrics.
Yes.
She sings these songs.
Yes, I love that. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I really do think it gives you another side of her personality, right? Because you don't see much of her rapping in the book, but you see those lyrics. Like you said, it adds, some sort of gravitas to her. You know that
Absolutely.
she really can do it.
Yes. And staying on that, is there a completed version of lyrics for the song As for Days? When I saw that, I said, I love this title and I need this to be a complete song.
No, there is not.
Okay. All right. So
not that talented.
Well, I would love it if you could finish As for Days, because that would be awesome if you could actually get someone to perform that. So you write contemporary interracial romance. I did a little research. In 2014, you wrote a blog post for Entangled Publishing on the importance of interracial romance. And at the time, you mentioned that the market for interracial romance featuring women of color had been growing, but that publishers hadn't been meeting the need as quickly as television and television shows. Do you see that publishing now in 22 is catching up, has caught up to other media in regards to telling interracial love stories?
I definitely think that romance publishing has caught up to that because you see a lot of it. You see when I was trying to become published in 2014, the fact that I wrote interracial stories featuring a woman of color and a white man was actually a hindrance to me. And I'd heard more than once, can you make them both Black or make them the same race?
Interesting.
Yeah. So, and the answer was always no, that wasn't what I wanted to do. Yeah. And I don't think that authors have that problem now. I know that there is some belief that in order to be like an author of color and be published in romance, it helps actually if your hero is white. So if you write interracial, that might be a help. But since it's always what I've done, I don't know if that is true or not. But I do know I see it more often than I did in 2014, definitely. And the reasons for that, I'm not sure. Anyone can guess.
I'd like to think that romance novels have helped to make those stories more available, and then in doing so, driving up that demand and that desire to read more of it. So I'd like to say that romance novels is actually the answer to everything, to every problem.
It is. It's free. It's the answer to all problems.
Yes.
If everyone read romance novels, the world would be a better place. I believe that. Okay, so I do not remember the title, but I cannot tell you the circumstances around it because this is funny to me. So I've always been a reader. I've been a big reader my entire life. Like my earliest memories are of my dad reading to me at bedtime. So I've always loved books. And I remember I was in 8th grade and I was reading quite a bit. So I was reading sort of more like the Sweet Valley High and Sweet Dreams. And they had, and I said this and people look at me like I'm crazy, but they had rebooted the Nancy Drew and Hardy Boys books. And they have brought them into like the 80s, right? And Nancy was like 80s teenager and she she didn't know karate, but she did ballet. So she would like beat the bad guys with like ballet kicks and moves. I don't know why I remember that. But these were the books that I was reading.
Mm-hmm.
And so my parents owned a seafood restaurant. And every day after school, I would go there to work a few hours before like going home and doing homework.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a waitress and she was much older. But usually, you know, you come into the seafood restaurant and I'm there and my head is in the book and, you know, I put it down to do whatever I have to do. And then I'm right back into this book. And I remember one day she came into work and she was like, "You read a lot." And I was like, "Yeah, I like reading." You know, I'm a nerd, big glasses, you know. And she was like, "Have you ever read this?" And literally she had this book and she slid it down to me, like down the like bar, you know. And I always felt like it was like an illicit drug deal. She's like, "Have you ever read this?"
Oh my
And
goodness.
I picked it up. And I know it was a silhouette because it was the purple border with silhouette.
Mm-hmm.
And but that's all I remember. The silhouette, and I know the guy had, you know, classic 80s hair with like, and I know he had a mustache. That's all I remember.
Oh, man.
But I was like, "No." And she was like, "Read that and tell me what you think." And I said, "Okay." And I remember, you know, reading the first chapter and it was like, "Oh," and then, you know, there was something about breast and kissing and I was just like, done. It was a wrap. It was over. That was the first book. I cannot remember, but I do know that was it. That was it for me. And I have never looked back.
Right.
Now, I was like 12, but didn't matter.
Now, when you finished the book, did you discuss it with her?
I just remember like saying like, "I want more." Like,
Mm-hmm.
where?
Right.
And she said, "Well, you can get them at the grocery store. Like you can buy them at the grocery store."
Yeah.
Well, so at the grocery store, they're full price and they're like at the time, I don't know, $1-2 or whatever. But my mom used to go to flea markets on the weekend. We had a flea market where we lived. And so I remember probably like a week or two after that going with her and I happened upon old Harlequin Presents. So someone was selling these old Harlequin Presents for like 25 cents.
Wow.
I mean, backpack full. That's where I spent the money I made at the restaurant. I would wait to go into the flea market and I would just shovel them in. That would last me, you know, a good month, I guess. And the next time we went, and that is one of the brightest memories of high school for me. That was it. It changed my life. I dedicated the first book I got published to her because it changed my life. It really did.
Oh, do you keep in touch?
She's a Facebook friend, right?
Oh, okay.
So, you know, yeah.
That's
so
something.
I don't talk to her often, but like every once in a while, if I post something, she'll be like, "Congratulations," you know, stuff like that. So, yeah.
Oh, that's an awesome story. What are you currently reading?
I am currently reading The Girl with Stars in Her Eyes by Theo Axelrod. Yes.
What's the last book you read?
Brothers and Wives by Christopher Anderson. It's about William and Harry and their wives. Research for book 2.
Oh, wink, wink. Okay. Which book is on your to be read pile?
The next book up is Nobody's Princess by Erica Ridley. It's a historical, and that's
I have it behind me.
Yes, you do. Oh my God. I just pointed like I'm a little kid.
Who is your top auto-buy romance author?
Mia Sosa. I mean, I will buy and read anything she writes.
Okay. What is your romance reading pet peeve?
I do not like conflict based on a misunderstanding. That drives me bananas.
I agree.
Yes, that will get a book toss. It really will.
What is your romance writing superpower?
Characters. I'm a plotter. I do a lot of work before I even begin writing. And I think figuring out my character and their arc and their background, all of that stuff, I think that is I think that's something that you find in one of my stories.
What is your romance writing kryptonite?
Writing the first draft, it fills me with anxiety every time.
Okay.
Start from beginning every time. I feel like I can't do this. I don't know how I did the last book. That was some other person. I don't know how this is going to happen. That is my kryptonite.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a relatable one.
Yeah.
Which is more difficult for you to write? The opening line of a novel or the very last line?
Opening. I have an idea what the opening scene is going to be, but that line is important. Like, you know, it's the thing that's going to grab people and place the story.
That's the line that I care about, because if your opening line doesn't hook me, I'm like, oh boy, where are we going with this? Would you consider rewriting the romance novel that you wrote at age 11 titled The Healing Power of Love?
Oh my gosh. It's so bad, Liz. It's so bad. It would be an entirely different story.
Okay.
Like that story, I couldn't even.
It's not salvageable.
It's not salvageable at all. Oh my God. I see it. I can see it.
Do you physically have it? Like,
I do.
Okay.
I do, because I did it on typewriter, and so I still have that. And because I wanted to be fancy, I did it it was in the cursive little font. So yes.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I mean, the title has potential, The Healing Power of Love.
You know, some might say that is the theme of the entire genre, but you know, I put it out there. I put it out there.
I think that's a pretty sophisticated title for an 11-year-old to have come up with.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, yes. I do. Well, Tracey, thank you so much for taking time to join me here on Reader Seeks Romance.
Thank you, Liz, for having me. I don't think I've laughed so much in quite a while. It was a lot of fun. Thank you.